Dean Jeffrey, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. We're so excited to talk to you and have you talk to our audience for Grand Rapids today.
Super excited. Thank you for the invite.
It's my absolute pleasure. So take us back to the beginning of your business adventure.
Yeah.
How did it start? Did you know that you wanted to start the specific smoothie business? Backtrack and explain it all.
Yeah, so it was honestly like I've had this idea of doing a smoothie business or a juice business for like 10 years.
Okay.
There was a place in Colorado in Boulder that really inspired me called Wonder Press. And when I went out there, it was just like, this feels like home, it's cozy, it's healthy. And there was nothing really like that in Grand Rapids at the time, but I was also 22, didn't have money, couldn't open anything. And so I kind of just let it sit. And it's like, that'll be a good dream, but it probably won't ever happen. And then in the heat of the pandemic, we realized, because we live a couple blocks from the shop, there's not really in the East Town area tons of accessible, healthy food that you can get quickly. And there's definitely not a lot of vegan options. And if there are, they're like secondary to the menu. Yeah. So it's just like, here's a vegan-ish option where we remove something, but it wasn't designed for a plant-based diet. And so that's when it really started to like, the wheel started to turn for me, where it's like, we could do something. Like,
and how many years ago was that?
It's probably close to 2.5 years ago.
2.5 years, okay.
And then I spent most of my career in restaurant furniture design and development. And so we worked with Chipotle and Wendy's and all these massive chain restaurants to design their spaces and the furniture that goes in them. And so during that whole research, I fell in love with just interior design and how that impacts the eating experience. And you pick up on trends and everything.
Yeah.
And so when I was trying to leave the role that I was in at the time, I figured I had to create a portfolio. I was thinking of going to more of a marketing agency role. And I wanted to have something in my portfolio that was more than just furniture design and restaurants. And so I decided to brand a fake juice bar. And we came up with the name Good Judy's. I created a full identity for it. And then from there, it kind of snowballed. And then it was like, oh crap, we signed a lease. And oh geez, like now we need to open in a month. We've got employees. And what are we gonna do now? Like, how do we make this work? And so it was a fast, once the idea was out there and the seeds were planted, it came to fruition really quickly.
Okay.
And it took probably 6 months of planning, financial analysis, competitive research, and then we got the keys. We opened up a month after we got the keys. We did all the work pretty much by ourselves. And then we were like, well, we're just gonna learn. Like, we just gotta get out there, throw some smoothies out there to people, get feedback, see if they like it, and go from there. And that's kind of where we started and how it kind of blossomed. But yeah, it was like, we've been open for 1.5 years now. And so the whole process probably took like 2.5 years.
It's not too long though.
No.
It's pretty impressive that you did it within 6 months. Starting.
Like I'm a little all over the place mentally. But when I get something in my mind that feels right, and shout out to my therapist, because massive kudos, they pushed me towards this and like kept me focused. But like once we got there, like and had the concept and the idea, and we started building these things and looking around, we were really like, there is nothing in this area that's serving this population in the way that we want to, and I think we could do it.
And how has the last 1.5 years been once you've opened?
A roller coaster ride.
But Crazy. It's been an uphill roller coaster?
Yes. I mean, most of the time. I mean, fully like, there's like, woo, we're doing it. And then it's like, oh crap, this happened. And now we have got to figure this out. Or, oh, the machine broke. And, oh gosh, now we have to expand this because this isn't working. So I've never had, like, I don't have like tons of restaurant or hospitality experience. Like I was a caddy. I've spent most of my time in marketing roles and business roles, but I was never a server. I was never working as a kitchen prep person. And so there were a lot of things from that standpoint that made the roller coaster a little wild.
Yeah.
Like not bad, but just like, oh, I didn't think
experience.
Like, yes.
Yeah.
Or like, where do you buy these things? And who fixes that refrigerator that's massive and you can walk in? Like, so there were those things. But for the most part, it's been such an exciting and rewarding experience that I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, well, I can definitely see it. You've got a beautiful place over here.
Thank you.
My
Thank
pleasure.
Thank you.
And you've got gorgeous advertising
We're
for your juices.
trying.
Did you design these yourself?
I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow.
So I did all of the branding and restaurant design between most of the branding was all my child. And then the restaurant design, my partner is also an interior designer, and did that before he went into the medical field. And so the two of us collaborated to put something together. And he was so supportive in all of the decisions that we made and allowing us to do this and investing in it and believing in it. So major kudos to him, and like couldn't have been here without him.
I'm sure he would say the same about you.
Hopefully.
Oh, lovely. So since you've been open, you said you're in the East Side, there was not a lot of healthy food over here or juices. What inspired you to do juices specifically?
I think for me, I've always had like 2 or 3 jobs at a time.
Okay.
Whether it was like I do my 9 to 5, I'd go next door and I'd teach like 3 classes at night, or I'd go to the other gym up the street and teach a class and then come and teach another class. So it was one of those, like, it's hard to eat healthy food when you're constantly running around. As much as you meal prep, it's challenging. So
and when do you have the time to meal prep?
Right.
Exactly.
Like, and when you do have the time, do you really want to just sit there and like cook basic meals all day?
Yeah.
And so for me, juicing was a way, same with smoothies, like it's just a way to get the most amount of nutrients in your body, where you're eating, you're getting your vegetables, you're getting your fruits, you're getting all the good stuff that your body needs as fuel in a really easy to drink way.
Yeah.
Where you can just stock up on a couple of these, keep them in your fridge, and like it's a meal replacement for some people, or it's just a way to add on some substance and make sure that you're getting the nutrients that you actually need. Because so many people are fatigued, or they're running on coffee, and I'm guilty of that. And it's like, it's so delicious, but like that's just increasing your stress response, that's keeping you up at night. Like, whereas juice doesn't do that. And that's where I was really drawn to, how do we make healthy foods super, super accessible?
Oh, that's wonderful.
And I think that was the easiest way to do it.
No, that's great. So let's dive deeper into your favorite juice. Which one out of these 3 is your favorite?
Ooh, okay. My personal favorite is the Paradise out of these 3. You get a hint of pineapple as like the base of the juice, and then it's layered with ginger and mint and kale. And so you're getting a balance of the fruity, but you're also getting the savory from the kale and some of the mint. And it comes together in a way that's not overwhelmingly sweet, because I'm not a big fan of super sweet things. But it's a well-balanced, full-bodied drink. The Liquid Sunshine is like our fancy mimosa mixer.
Ooh.
If you're into mimosas, no worries.
Yes, I am.
This is a life changer for that. But it's orange juice, apple, lemon, and then a little bit of turmeric. And so the turmeric's great for fighting inflammation. The orange juice, I think orange juice is super, super sweet, even though it's delicious. But I think the apple and the lemon really cut that a little bit. And so you don't get that like bite of acidity that you would get from like store-bought orange juice.
Okay.
And then this one is one of our seasonal ones. It's our lavender lemonade. And we make a cold brewed lavender tea. And then we mix that with cold pressed lemon juice and a little bit of organic maple syrup. And it's really subtly sweet, which I think is great. You can always make it more sweet if you want to, but it's great on ice. It's refreshing. It's floral without being too pungent. Like you're not eating soap, but it has like a really refreshing vibe to it. And so this has been my seasonal favorite.
Okay.
But
so you also have seasonal juices.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We typically
things are always changing.
Yeah, we've got about 8 steady juices, like regulars that we always have, and they go from like the greens to the roots to some of the citrus-based ones. And then we'll throw in 2 or 3 rotating seasonal ones, so that we can really maximize. I mean, Michigan has amazing produce, and so it feels like it would be such a waste not to capture that. Like we're doing, we're going to launch a strawberry basil lemonade in the next month, which is using hydroponic basil grown like 3 blocks away in one of those giant shipping containers by this amazing woman. Her company is called Super Bloom Farms. Michigan strawberries in summer are phenomenal. And so it's just taking the best of what Michigan has to offer and trying to put it into a juice or a smoothie.
So you and your business partner are huge on using locally grown and locally made products and
Yeah.
items, like the things on there too.
Yeah, as much as we can.
What is the reason for that? I know Michigan is very local and they love supporting each other, but what is your motive behind it?
I think when it comes to, when you look at the overall food system in America, we get a lot of things shipped into the country.
Yes.
Or we get, it spends days, if not weeks, on a truck or in a warehouse before it gets to you. And during that time, it starts to lose the nutrient density of the actual produce.
Okay.
And so by using things that are hyper local, you're really not only supporting other local businesses and farmers, which are so necessary to this community, but you're also maximizing the benefit of those fruits and vegetables because they're going 15 minutes away as opposed to coming from California or coming from Florida. And some of those are necessary. Like, we obviously can't grow oranges and pineapples and avocados in Michigan, but to balance that with hyper local, most of our stuff like that isn't a tropical fruit comes from like within 50 miles. And it's delivered every week. So it's at that peak of ripeness and you just get better flavor and better nutrients. So that's why it was super important to us.
Okay, no, that's great. I also see the benefit of the customers because they get the best quality that they possibly can.
Yes, and like when you're making things that are simple, like none of this stuff is hyper processed. We're not adding any fake flavors or like processed sweeteners or like made up sugar additives.
Yeah.
Like it's all just, the fruit is what you're getting, the fruit and vegetables. And so to get the best flavor, you have to have the best ingredients to start with. And that to me is really, really passionate. And like I grew up, my grandpa was a farmer. And so like I would spend summers picking corn and he'd be like, here's a quarter for your 8 hours of picking corn. And he grew corn for deer feed, but I respect how hard he works and how hard he'd worked for so many years.
And how hard farmers work in general.
In general, it is insane.
Yes, exactly.
Where I'm like, I wouldn't want to do that. Like, I don't want to do that job.
We appreciate them so much.
Yes, like I have so much respect for their work ethic. And if we can support them in any way, I feel like that's our job as consumers.
Yeah.
It's like when they say like you vote with your money. It's like, well, I'm putting my money into the local community by supporting local produce producers. So that's huge for me.
No, that's wonderful. When I was growing up, I'm from South Africa originally.
Oh, okay.
So far south.
Yeah.
And I would do the same. I didn't have a farm myself or my family, but all my friends had farms. So we would go and play with the cattle and we'd have cattle and sheep and that kind of thing. So kind of the same, but a little bit different. I can completely relate with your story.
Yeah, and like there's such a disconnect between, I think, the consumerism of Americans and their food. And so it's hard for people to visualize and process, like, the person who grew my food is a real human being that's supporting a family that also has these needs. And a lot of times, and I was guilty of this, especially in my 20s before I had like a stable income, and you shop for what's cheap.
Yeah.
And what's cheap is often subsidized foods that aren't local for the most part. They aren't super accessible.
Or it's fast food.
Yes, or it's fast food where it's hyper processed, and then you're like, well, I'm screwed either way. And so it's so important to support local farming because it's going to sustain us the most, and it's the most sustainable option.
And without farmers, we really don't have food.
We'd be screwed.
If we really go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's like we'd be screwed.
Yeah. So let's dive deeper into the substitute that you use for sugar.
Yeah.
I know the importance of it, but could you give us and the audience a little bit more details about your agave?
Yep. So in all of our juices, we don't use any added sweetener. It's all just the fruit itself.
Oh, okay.
In our smoothies, though, we add a little bit of agave. And a lot of times people will go to some of our competitors that are like the national chains, and our drinks are not as sweet as what they're used to.
Makes sense, because they're more organic.
Right. And because we don't, like, if you really look up, and I won't even say their name because I don't want to throw shade, because it's serving a purpose and it's doing something, and you have to respect that. But they'll add like a half cup of white sugar to a single smoothie, like a full half cup scoop of white sugar to a smoothie. And that's like that's a lot of sugar. Like
it's harmful.
It's harmful, and it's not advertised as clearly as it should be, because ingesting a half cup of sugar is like drinking 2 Mountain Dews a day. Like it's not connecting the dots, because they're promoting it as like, this is a healthy smoothie alternative and you're getting your fruits and vegetables, but then they're leaving out the fact that it's like a lot of extra sugar. And I think people feel a good energy spike. It tastes amazing because it's so sweet, and we're addicted to sugar as a population. And so when they try ours, a lot of people that are, especially coming from that, like those types of chain smoothie shops, think that ours are not sweet at all. And so we try, and we're proud of that, because we do pick really great fruit. The fruit has really great flavor, and we try to maximize it without being deceptive about how much sugar we're adding. And so agave versus real sugar has a lower glycemic index.
Okay.
And so that means it doesn't spike your blood sugars reaction as much as like a white like a granulated white sugar, which means you won't have like the sugar crash that you would have if you were to eat like a cookie.
Yeah, like going like this.
Yeah, like it'll
so
just, your body will process it a little bit easier. And there's a lot of debates about whether it's actually healthier. Any added sugar is gonna, in an abundance, is gonna be bad for your body. And so yeah, we add about a tablespoon of organic agave, to our smoothies. It adds just enough sweetness, because it does have a sweeter quality to it than like a table sugar. And so you don't need as much of it.
And agave is a plant.
Yeah, agave is a plant. It's the same one that they make tequila from. It uses the same sap, and it's just, it either goes into agave production or it goes into tequila production. But it's a sweeter, you use less of it, lower glycemic index, so you don't get the spike. And fruits have so much natural sugar in it anyways that I don't think you need a lot of added sugar.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And then we always have the option on our website, even when you order, when you're in store, to do half sugar or less agave, or even substitute the agave with like fresh dates, and it adds like a really nice caramely sweetness to it versus like the agave sweetness.
That's what I do normally when I make smoothies at home. I'll use dates, and I'll put a little bit of honey if I'm feeling a little extra.
Yes, and it's just like, it's one of those that keeps things, because that's the other thing that I'm really passionate about, is keeping our prices affordable and accessible to the neighborhood. Technically, this like area code is still considered a food desert, because there aren't enough grocery stores within walking distance that have access to healthy, fresh foods.
That's interesting.
And so when you look at the overall demographic breakdown of this area code, we wanted to make sure that we weren't just coming in and massively gentrifying by creating this $15 smoothie that most people can't afford.
Yeah.
And so there are ways that we can make things more accessible, and like using organic honey is a more expensive option, and we've got it if people want to do that. But for the majority of people, doing a tablespoon of agave gets you the flavor, it doesn't spike your blood sugar, and it keeps the prices stable because it is accessible. And so that was another, it's a weird thing to like factor all these different things into it, where you're like, how do you make everybody happy?
Yeah. And that's a part of business.
Yeah.
You have to take every aspect into consideration and find your formula for your specific business.
Right.
So backtracking to the beginning of your business, what were the main challenges of starting a business between you and your partner?
The main challenges were neither of us knew what we were doing. So that's a struggle. Like everything from like negotiating rent at a commercial space to like, how do you design a kitchen? Like I've never worked in a commercial kitchen, so I don't really know what I need. So there was those, but then it's also like, we both have full-time jobs, and like we were renovating at nighttime. Like we would come in, we'd sneak our dog in, we'd cut we cut the wood for the shelves, we cut the wood for the bar, like we redid everything for the most part. We painted by hand.
So this is your own little baby.
Yeah.
Literally. Oh, that's beautiful.
And like, yes, there are things that now that I'm here for a year, I'd change, but like for the most part, it was set up, and we knew we had a vision, and we executed. But I'd say the people standpoint, like training people. It's just, okay. Back to I'm rambling.
It's okay.
So we've got the basics of opening a business, like tax forms, licensing, kitchen licensing, like health inspections, all the stuff that you just don't know because you don't know. Finding people that share your passion for what you're doing to work with you because you can't do it all on your own.
Yeah, and also finding your community as well.
Yes. And that was, I think, the thing that I felt the most comfortable doing was the community aspect. Like we live 3 blocks from here. We've lived here for 7-8 years. I've taught yoga for 6 years right next door, like literally next door to this building. Half the people that I know own businesses on this street. And so it was like, I was inspired by them. They gave me good advice. But we had a good connection of human beings in this area that we knew, like, even if we opened the doors and we broke even, it would be worth it because you'd have that support from those people. Yeah, it was just all the technical stuff that I sucked at, like massively.
It's like, okay.
How do you get the kitchen, like, and they don't make it easy. Like you would think applying for a kitchen license, like a business tax ID, employment insurance, unemployment insurance would be like, click this link, then click this link, but it's not. It's 50 different websites. Nobody tells you that you need to do one of these websites. 6 months into it, you get a note from the government that's like, by the way, like you should do this, otherwise they're gonna fine you. And you're like, that would have been great to know. So like that thing, they just don't make it easy to like start a small business, and
you have to figure out everything by yourself.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, so that was probably the hardest thing.
Okay, well, how would you say that you and your partner were able to overcome those challenges? Obviously, you and him have a very good relationship. You talked out everything. You built this from scratch. But would you say that there was one main factor that made you overcome things?
Yeah, we're both really stubborn and don't want to fail.
Like, I like that.
Massively stubborn and like, yeah, I'm terrified of failing and looking like an idiot. And so I was like, no matter what, we're not going to look like like I'll look like a little bit of an idiot. I'm fine being dumb, but like, we're not going to like just fall on our face. Hopefully.
We're going to make this work.
Yes. Like I'll do whatever it takes to make it work. And I think we both agreed early on the things that we didn't know how to do, we were going to hire somebody else to at least help us. And so like when it came to opening a commercial kitchen, neither of us had that background, but we hired a consultant that knew what they were doing, had experience, and we were like, we could either spend the $3,000 trying it ourselves, making mistakes, paying to fix it, or we can spend it up front, get set up properly the first time, learn from an expert who has this knowledge, and then apply it and grow and adapt from there. But I think and that was one of the things I learned in business and my years in business was, if you don't know something, like there's a little wiggle room to figuring it out on your own, and like there's some tenacity and like ingenuity that you celebrate with that. Yeah. But there's also like, there are professionals for a reason. Like not everybody's good at marketing. Like, so you hire marketers to do that job because they understand what they need to do. Yeah. Or like,
and they get you the results.
Yes.
They should get you the results.
Yes. Or like one of the big things that I did is we did PR internally for years and like sucked at it at this company, like could not get placements anywhere. And it was like, you know what, let's just hire somebody that has spent their entire career building relationships with these editors that we want to get in front of. So it's not just a random cold call, like, hey, I've got a chair. And the second that we did that, we landed all of these placements and we saw sales increase. And it was like, that was such a learning for me. It was like, learn from people who are better than you.
Who have the expertise.
Yes. Either trust them to do it or let them teach you to do it, and then constantly challenge yourself to learn. And I think Connor and I were both on the same page with that, where it was like, we're going to push as hard as we can on our own. And the second we can't figure something out, we don't have the time physically to spend learning that. So let's pay somebody to do it. And I realize that is such a privilege because not everybody has the money to do it, but you're going to spend that money either way. You're either going to do it up front and know what you're getting yourself into, or you're going to screw it up 10 times and either pay more for it because you're fixing things. And that was huge for us. Like, we hired a couple consultants when it came to like menu optimization, when it came to printing like our t-shirts and our swag, and taxes. God forbid, I would never try. I would never try. That's wild. That's one of those things where I'm like, all yours. Like,
I like that.
Not even gonna attempt. And I think that was huge because it did it. It saved us a lot of time and allowed us to focus our energy on things that we could control, like the customer experience, like the quality of our food.
Which is more important for you to do than
right, because you can't necessarily hire somebody that cares about those things easily, which you find out later in life.
Or they don't have those qualities and they have to develop them.
Yes.
Have you found with the younger generation that it's been more of a harder situation than it used to be a couple generations back, working in jobs like these?
In terms of like skill set, or in customer relation, or both?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like, we've lucked out because we've got a really good staff, and they each are super quirky and bring so many personalities to the table that it adds like a layers of interest and like intrigue, and it helps us build like a dynamic, diverse community. So, but there are things like, I grew up in that cusp of like not having internet, or like I didn't grow up with a phone. Like, text messaging was still like push the S 3 times to get to a T.
I had a BlackBerry for my first phone.
Yes,
I was like 15, I think, when I first got my phone.
I remember my dad coming downstairs one time and being like, Dean, you owe me $300 for text messages, because you had to pay per text message, and I didn't know, and I was like, way over, so it was bad. But like,
you learned your lesson.
I learned my lesson. I paid that fee. It was terrible, but so like, I think like every generation is going to say the younger generation lacks some skills, and it's because they've developed other skills that are also important. But in terms of food service, I think it's been really, because we've got on our staff, we had somebody that was 55 all the way down to 16. And like literally every generation, or every 10 years, we had somebody in that age group. And so it was really interesting as like a manager, I'm 35, to like manage a 55-year-old and also a 16-year-old. And like how those two people are motivated. And they do have such, like, 55-year-old could sell ice to an Eskimo. Like, could just make you feel at home, make you feel loved, like the cookies flying off the shelves. The 16-year-old can solve all of my tech issues, though. And so there's this trade-off of like, yeah, you might not have, like, you didn't grow up cooking because you had access to technology, and your parents are both working human beings, and they didn't necessarily spend their time cooking. And so there was like this weird difference of like skill set based off of the generation. And I think the younger generation, to go back to your first question, have so many great qualities, but you can tell that socially there's some struggle to like connect face to face to people. And it's been cool to see these people that came in maybe a little shyer, or they weren't used to being public facing individuals, be challenged to have relationships and to be able to hold conversations. Because I think one of the things that I think really differentiates us from other like smoothie shops, if we just want to like blanket categorize it, we really have tried to create, especially with the bar area, not just high school kids giving you a smoothie and you leaving. Like, we really want to be a part of our customers' lives and a part of their weekends, and support them any way we can.
Yeah, and have a safe space for them to come and hang out, or bring a board game or something.
Yes,
and just
like,
chill.
This is your space. Enjoy. Like, we've opened the doors, do what you need to do, be respectful of everybody. But like, the thing that people keep coming back to every time they talk to us is it's so refreshing to have staff that you can talk about your day to, or I'm having a terrible day, let me just sit here, and you feel like you have somebody that can listen. And it's those skill sets that I think the younger generation has struggled because they did grow up with technology and texting and email and all these things where they didn't have to. COVID. I mean, the kids
It's
that
because of COVID.
yes, like the 3 years that people were in school, like high school and college, are the people that are working for us now. And those are developmentally like such important years for being able to communicate, like, and present yourself. And they didn't have that opportunity because they were stuck at home or they were stuck in their dorms. And so it's like a little learning curve, and you forget that those are like almost lost years of learning. But it's so cool to see these people like rise to the occasion and blossom.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's nice to hear that you have created such a safe space over here, especially with customer service, as I can call it, because I think that's what really identifies and what makes a company what it is. If you have bad customer service, people will not come to your company.
No, go anywhere. You can get a smoothie from anybody. Like, yes, they're gonna have some taste, but I'm not dumb to the idea that like it's blended fruit and almond milk.
Yeah.
Like anybody can really make a smoothie, but it is fully the experience. Is how is the smoothie balanced? What ingredients are we using? How is the communication between the customer? Is this space giving you something more than just a pickup window or a DoorDash pickup place? Like, what makes you different is the people side of things.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And
that's why Amazon is the best in the world.
Right. They understood a need, and then they filled it. And it was like, people want things fast. And they did it, and they want all the things fast. Whereas like we can't do that because we're not Amazon, but we can give you emotional support. We can make you feel wanted.
And give you the best experience that you possibly could.
And allow you to be yourself without judgment or without stress of coming in here and being like, crap, I don't know these people. Is it going to be awkward? Like, just to know that you're accepted is huge for everybody. And I think,
and it's less stressful. I think, especially with the younger generation now, because of COVID and technology as a whole.
Yeah.
People have, as you said, they have some social skill issues, but all they want to do is be heard and being accepted by other people.
Right.
And I think that comes down to our biological needs just as a human, you know. All of us want that. It doesn't matter our age.
Right. You're spot on. It's 1,000% correct.
Yeah. So let's dive deeper into your business. You are, as you said, the only queer smoothie bar. Is that correct?
In West Michigan, at least.
In West Michigan.
I know there's a couple, like there's some other ones around the country that are super awesome. But in West Michigan, we're the only ones that are a queer-owned smoothie business that actually promote it.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. What is your motive behind that, and how do you want the community to react and involve themselves?
Yeah, I think, so I came from Detroit. And Detroit, or at least the Ann Arbor area, is on its surface level much more liberal than Grand Rapids was when I came here. And so there was massive culture shock, especially from the religious standpoint, as a 20-year-old gay guy coming from Ann Arbor, who's super liberal, to West Michigan. And I didn't feel comfortable in a lot of places. And I've got the privilege of being like a white man that isn't massively presenting a female or like I have a lot of privileges that I understand and respect. But the big thing is, like, if you go to a lot of these other places, they are religious based and faith based, and the queer community hasn't been fully embraced by religion in general. And so a lot of people, especially on the West Side, have some trauma associated with religious organizations. And having companies that are based in faith is sometimes off-putting. I don't want to speak for the whole queer community, but it's sometimes off-putting. At least that was my experience. And so then when you couple that with, as somebody who taught yoga and cycling for 10, 12 years, health and wellness in general is very much, that industry is not centered towards acceptance or inclusivity at its core. I think in theory it wants to be, where it's like everybody is welcome, but in theory it's like you have to fit a certain mold, you have to wear a certain type of clothes, you have to look a certain way if you want to really fit in or be featured or like feel included. And I think that's such BS, because everybody is so, especially as a teacher of yoga and cycling, like everybody is so capable.
Yeah.
And if you're a good teacher, you can make everybody feel good and capable and supported and safe if you understand what you're doing. And so between the religious side of things, it's insane how many smoothie and juice places are religious based. That was a big wake up call for me when I first joined in, because I will say the smoothie world is really supportive. Like there's Facebook groups where they share recipes and they share stories and they'll share tips. And it's like, whoa, you guys are all super kind. So massive
That's
shout
a
out
good
to
community.
them. Yeah, really good community, but it is also not the most welcoming if you aren't fitting a certain mold.
Okay.
And then you couple that with the health and wellness community also being extremely polarizing and having bad juju.
So those are some of the challenges that you faced. How did you overcome those challenges?
I think we said F it and we embraced it. One of the first sticker that I think I designed said proud to be fruity. And
do you have stickers here?
Yeah, it's actually, I just reordered because we sold out, so don't
lovely.
hate me. But it was a cartoon little fruits, and then it said proud to be fruity. And it was play on words, because obviously we make fruit smoothies, but also being called fruity was a derogatory term when I was growing up. So it was something that people used against you.
Okay.
And so that type of slang, taking that ownership back, was one way that we were listen,
we're proud.
We're proud. You can come in here. There's 18 other smoothie places. If you want to go get something that's not queer owned or not supporting queer businesses or minority owned businesses, go for it. Do your thing. But if you want to support this community, especially, the other thing was especially now, politically, the queer community has been under such attack, especially the trans community, that increasing visibility is so key. I go, and tell me if I'm rambling too much about this, but one of the big things that was inspiring was I was born in '88. The AIDS epidemic happened end of right during the '80s, early '80s. And so by the time I was 10, 12, my parents were still terrified that I was just going to get AIDS and die when I came out. That was their number one concern.
Which made sense because it was so much a part of their world.
Yes, they had lost friends to the crisis, and we lost a whole generation of queer people to that disease that never got to open businesses, that never got to lead companies, that never were publicly facing because they died at such a young age. And that shook me to my core when I think about how much talent we lost, how much inspiration, just the power of the queer community is insane. They're the most talented human beings that I've ever met come from that community. And so growing up, there wasn't visibility. We had 3 stereotypes around TV at the time. We weren't in movies. If we were, it was in a negative way. And so I never, especially navigating business, there weren't outwardly queer CEOs. There weren't outwardly queer badass bosses.
Yeah, so it's kind of, you had to figure it out on yourself. By yourself.
And you didn't have an advocate, and you mask and you go through all these different layers of how do I fit in, but how do I not sacrifice who I am? And is this a safe place for me to be myself and say things that I need to say? Or do I have to buy, especially I was in manufacturing for 10 years, and it's that is not the space where there's tons of queer acceptance. And so it was really important that, and for me at least, that we weren't, that wasn't a secondary thing for us. We wanted people to know that this was a queer-owned space. First and foremost, this is a safe space for queer people, and that they're valued and that they're loved and that they're supported. And everybody else is great. Come here, do your thing, get a smoothie. We'll love you and support you too. But at the end of the day, we wanted to make sure there was visibility for our community in this area as this area grows, and that you weren't pushed out or you weren't overlooked.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. It's lovely to see that you're so inclusive for not just one specific person, for everybody.
We try.
And
we
you're
really
trying
try.
to push that forward to actually make a change in Michigan, or West Michigan, I should
Right.
say.
Right. So we're trying.
So in terms of business,
Yeah.
would you say that owning and running and starting a queer business has different challenges? And when you started it, did you have to do different things?
There's like sensitivities that I think we took into consideration that if we just opened like a generic juice bar, we wouldn't have to. And luckily, like, the idea and the birth of this place came from the pandemic era, where there was a massive social injustice magnifying glass on the entire country. And it opened up this really great opportunity for us to just look at all aspects of the business, whether it is our staff, who the majority of them identify as queer or non-binary, or they fall into some type of group, to the snacks on our shelves. Like, I just pulled the numbers, and 90% of them are minority-owned businesses, 65% of them are women-owned businesses, 10% are queer-owned businesses, 15% are Black-owned businesses. And so we're like mentally setting goals for ourselves to increase those numbers.
Yeah.
Because
no, that's incredible.
You need to, like, when you think of like Meyer and what they serve, like, you go there and there's 8,000 brands, and they're all owned by the same 3 massive companies that are all just going back to the same 3 billionaires that are in charge of those companies. And I think if you want to make change, you have to put your money where you want to support. And if I can, like, Favorite Pretzels is a great example. Susie owns it. Her daughter is autistic, on the autism spectrum, and she's gluten-free. And so she started the company because she couldn't find gluten-free pretzels.
I understand that I have celiac disease.
Yes. And then she built her company around employing people that are on the spectrum. And so like 80% of her staff throughout the entire organization are people with autism. And it's like,
that's beautiful.
If I can support a company like that also makes an amazing pretzel, I would much rather support Susie's dream and her family than General Mills or like a Kellogg's. Like, and that's the part where I think people, that goes back to our earlier convo about the disconnect between people's food. Like, all of these brands are small independent people that I could tell you their entire life story from, because you've connected with them and they're doing something amazing. And like, you can see that they're trying to better their families, or they're trying to employ a certain demographic of people. And
they're trying to make a difference in some kind of way.
And shake up the consumer packaged good industry with either less processed stuff or higher quality ingredients, or just visibility to an underrepresented community.
Yeah.
And like, that's the stuff that really matters, versus Mr. Kellogg's getting an extra private jet. Like, that to me is so important. Why I love like the snack side of our business. And it goes back to like farmers. Like, again, it's the same thing. Like, we work with selected farmers because they're practicing sustainable business. They're local, they are minority owned, or they want to, like, they're trying to do something good. And so it goes back to like, you have to intentionally, back to your original question, the full question of what can,
perfect.
You have to, at every level of business, take into consideration your purpose and what you want to accomplish. It would be so easy for me to go and buy Kellogg's based foods and put them on these shelves.
Very simple, easy process.
And it would be cheaper, and it would be easier, and I'm sure the prices would be a little lower. But if I want to build a business that's centered around inclusivity, if I want to build a business that's centered around sustainability, higher quality ingredients, you have to do that at every level of your organization.
And especially building a business based on what your values and your morals are, what you stand for.
Yes.
And providing that to people that are around you, the people that walk through the store and come and buy products from you.
Right. And then educating them so that they can share that same passion and understanding of like, I'm not just some kooky little man in my corner eating like phenomenal oat milk chocolate, but But I am, and I want you to do that too because it's so good. And once you taste it, it'll be so good for you. And you're supporting somebody that you can like connect the dots to. And that sense of community that we talked about when it comes to like our customers coming in and us serving them and having conversations, it extends beyond the four walls of here to the people that are making the food that we get and the snacks that we're providing, because those people also have families and communities that they're supporting. And it's this ripple effect of like it's like what's that, like a drop in the lake, and it like boom, boom. It's like that.
No, that's beautiful. I love to see the passion that you have talking about your products that you have in here and the people that you've made relationships with.
I'm trying.
I think that really does make a difference in the business.
Yeah.
Just owning a business as a whole. If you are passionate about what you are selling, people will see that. And they're more inclined to, I want to talk to you. Hey, let's have a conversation.
Right.
Let me find out more.
Right.
And then also buy the products.
Now, knowing that you have celiacs, like I can walk you through every product on here that is phenomenal for you and tell you about the pros and cons of it and like what you would love and what you want, so that you're not just blindly going to a massive store, going to that little baby section that has 3 options to choose from, because it's just the easy thing for that massive buyer to do. And it's like, we want to have a different level of commitment to those people that are struggling with food allergies or with sensitivities, dietary restrictions. Like I was vegetarian for 18 years. Like, especially then, you couldn't find anything. Like,
especially back then.
Yes, my best friend's mom was a celiac, and I remember in high school making her, this was like 2004, making her like a boxed celiac cake, and it tasted like absolute garbage. And I was just like, this is the worst thing ever. I want you to have good cake.
I know the owner of Bliss Bakery. Have you heard of them? Lovely woman, and their whole bakery is completely gluten-free.
Amazing.
I know. No gluten is ever put into that bakery, which I think is incredible.
It is.
Yeah. And going back to the lady that you were talking about made the pretzels. So I have a friend, she's Miss Spirit of the state, running for Miss Michigan in June. And she has an organization which runs and supports autism getting jobs, people with autism getting jobs, because there's, I think, I may be corrected on this, but only somewhat of 18% of people with autism get jobs. So she's pushing for that. So I'd love to connect those two.
Yeah, because that would be awesome.
Yeah,
and it's so necessary. And like, everybody has a skill, and it's just finding what that is and putting it to use and making people feel valued by leveraging what they love to do and what they're good at.
Yeah. And a lot of people lack the knowledge on a lot of topics. Yeah. Like I did not have the knowledge on people with autism until she told me her story and her family story about it. And then I was so intrigued to find out more. Yeah. So I think a lot of the times, even with the queer community, people just lack knowledge.
Right.
It's like if they're willing to learn about it, that would be fantastic. And then I think we'd get along a lot better.
I think so too. I hope so.
So in the next 5 to 10 years with your business, what are some goals that you'd love to hit?
Ooh, we definitely have talked about expanding to at least one more location.
In West Michigan or out the state?
Right now, West Michigan.
Okay.
Just because I think that's probably the easiest. And that's probably the biggest thing. The second thing is we do have a vision for executing the interior of this place and optimizing it for getting refrigerated sections so that we can carry more refrigerated foods versus just the packaged foods.
Yeah.
Or having more grab and go friendly type meals that you don't have to wait to get prepared, but you could pick up a full salad for your family, or you can pick up, soups, everything, expanding the menu a little bit.
All inclusive.
Yes. And that's our biggest goal. And then making sure that we stay true to building the business around the foundation that we've created, and making sure that we're not just building with the sake of the financial end game, but building to make sure that we're supporting the right people in the community.
Well, it sounds like you're doing that, definitely.
Trying.
No,
yeah, I think it is. It's a weird balance of how do you sell a $10 smoothie, pay employees a living wage, pay rent, and then also give back to the community without going bankrupt. And especially with inflation and prices these days, I'm
Just keeps going up.
I keep joking. I'm like, this is the most expensive hobby that I've ever had. And it's true, but like it's rewarding either way.
It is, yeah, definitely.
Like,
being a business owner is a whole world in itself.
It is. And it's been such a good learning experience because like you can sit there from the outside, and I'm guilty of this. I will full on say this was me, but like as a marketing person working for a small family business, I would sit there and be like, WTF is this person doing? Like, why are they making this decision? This doesn't make sense. 101 is this. And then being in their shoes now, you're like, okay, it's not just black and white. Like, there is this weird, how do we make this work, but also not screwing us up? And it's a puzzle piece kind of thing. Or Jenga, I think, is a great example where you're like slowly pulling things and you're like, don't topple.
Pop and pray.
Yeah.
No, I think that also goes back to me saying it's just a lack of knowledge.
It is.
I love meeting people who are open-minded because for me that is like, please can we have a conversation? Yes. I just want to pick your brain.
I want to be a sponge.
Yeah, that's how I am, especially. Just like the more knowledge I can get, the more open I can be and the more I can talk about things with people, you know?
Yes.
I don't know. I come from a third world country. My dad's a business owner too. And he taught me ever since I was little that you go across the table, you have a conversation with someone, you get to know them. It's not just, hey, I want something from you. Yeah. Can you buy this?
And I think that's so transactional.
Yeah, I think that's also a big problem that's coming into the world right now. But it is a thing that can be avoided. I see it. But I have that perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, kudos to your dad because it's so true.
Yeah. He did very well. He does very well.
It's so true. Yes, there's a transactional element, but at the end of the day, like we exist in community, and being isolated during COVID, working from home, 9 to 5, not seeing human beings all day, not being able to teach, not being able to go to an office, not being able to go outside, really made me realize how human-centric I am as a person and how much I rely on communication to other people and interaction with other people to thrive and stay healthy and sharp in my mind and not be depressed. And so
I'm the complete same. I'm a big people person. Yeah. I need to talk.
Yeah, like once I get my social batteries dead, I'm dead and I'm a little a-hole, but I recognize that and I go home. But I thrive off of human interaction and like sharing stories and like having combos like this.
Oh, that's lovely. What are some ways that you and your business help the local community around you here?
I think there's a couple ways that we've done it, and like obviously financially I would love to be able to give all my money away and support them. But I also have to pay rent so that we can do other things that also support the community.
Exactly.
And so it's a balance, but we participate in. One of the cool things about this little strip of Wealthy Street, though, is there's so many queer business owners, and they're all super helpful and wonderful. Like Fox Naturals, we work a lot with the Transfigure print company. There's a bunch, and it's so great because they all want to support each other. So like last fall, we participated in Transfigure's first like queer art market, and it was just it was like 15, 20 queer artists. And then Basalt, who's queer owned, and ourselves were the food vendors. And it was amazing just to see like all of the different artists and be able to get back to that. So we donated a portion of our proceeds from there back to the Grand Rapids Trans Foundation.
Okay.
We've done a number of fundraisers where we'll sell a specific drink. And
that you make?
Yeah, that we make. And that goes back to either the GR Pride Center or the Grand Rapids Trans Foundation. We're currently, and again, this goes back to like specifically sourcing, because that's one way to support people, is like people that are printing our swag is like the Transfigure print people, who's a trans-owned business. And again, it's lifting these queer businesses up while you're lifting your business up so that you can all do the most good for each other. Yeah. Maxine's Heavenly is a phenomenal snack company that we support that's queer owned. So it's just like being mindful of all those different avenues. Another thing that we do is every year we host a market at Christmas time where it features 5 or 6 queer makers or artists or vendors, and the space is theirs. They come in here, we serve our drinks, but they can use the space whenever they want to do a pop-up.
I wish I knew about that. I would have come and supported.
Yeah, and it's like the whole street does this like shop pop thing, and they've got these trolleys, and every store has some type of event going on. But we figured we've got this space. Why would we not open it up to the masses? And so we've worked with a couple people throughout the year, like every 3 months we do a pop-up, where we just have a queer-owned business come in and feature their stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's little things like that I think start to build. And as we grow, like we're going to be at Pride this year to support the Grand Rapids Pride Center and be able to fund some of their events through our participation, but also us give back to the community with free swag and providing a safe, healthy spot. Yeah. So there's like many layers of things, but obviously I would love to do thousands of things more. So if anybody's out there that wants to collaborate, like holler. Yeah, like even down to our swag, like we work with queer artists to create the graphics that go on our t-shirts and our mugs and our stickers. And
well, while we're on this topic, what is the best way for people to reach you so that they can do collaborations and partnerships with you?
Okay, so our website, drinkgoodjudys.com, has like a little contact form that goes right to my personal email. Or you can follow us and message us on Instagram or TikTok, and it's just GoodJudysGR for both of them. And it's the easiest way to get a hold of us. We don't have like a public phone number out there because I suck at being on the phone. But if you email me or you message me on social media, I will answer right away. And so that's the easiest way. Drink Good Judys or GoodJudysGR on social media.
Well, that sounds great. I will also link those below the YouTube so that they can all get in contact with you.
Thank you, Emily.
Would you say that social media plays a big part of your business?
Huge. And I personally enjoy social media from like a consumable standpoint, but I'm not a huge lover of creating content for it.
Okay.
But I cannot deny that social media helped us build a very robust community. It helps us get our message out there. It's really interesting when I like slack a couple days on posting or like interacting with people.
And you see the difference.
Yeah, and then like, oh God, like this is, I gotta really lean into this one this week. And like one of the things that we do is, at first we would do Tuesday BOGO smoothies, and that was like a promotion so that we could make smoothies and healthy food more accessible for this community, since we can't give everybody a discount all the time. But like if there's one day where you can get 2 smoothies for the price of 1, that's our way of like giving back to this area. And at first it was just everybody and their brother that walked through the door. That was what we told them. And now we say, follow us on Instagram, and every Tuesday we post a code. And if you follow us on Instagram and you see that code, you get access to this, like the BOGO deal.
Oh, that's great.
And there's people now that will message us at like 9:05 and be like, WTF, where's the code? Like I need this. Like, so it's created a demand for us to generate some type of content and consistency that forces us to be engaged. But it has been huge for just building awareness of our business, because we don't have the funds that some of the chain smoothie places have, or the market recognition, because we haven't been around for 40 years.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Would you say that there has been a success story that you have seen in social media? There's either a post, a story, a reel, or something that really sparked people to start coming through that door?
I don't know if it was just one thing.
Okay.
I think we do a taste test Tuesday type of situation where we feature either one of our snack products and their makers, or we feature a new menu item. And a lot of times it's just me, because I do it after we close and I'm just like, let's try something, I'm hungry. Let me give you my honest feedback. But it does give people a lot of insight into like, why did we pick this snack to carry? And what is the ethos behind that brand? Or like what ingredients and where do we source the basil for the burrata toast? And what's new and seasonal? And so I think that series of posts that we do has been really pivotal in driving continued customers coming back in.
Well, that makes sense.
As opposed to like, hey, we've got the same smoothies, same juices, and you've got the consistency from the menu there, but like giving people exposure to things that would be exciting to them.
Yeah, a real taste of it.
Yes. And like the only feedback that I've gotten is like, you never say anything sucks. And it's like,
Because it doesn't.
Well, if it does, it just doesn't. I don't want to bash it. It's
but
like,
also because you're selling the products that you're tasting. You
right.
wouldn't be selling
and
them
like,
if you didn't stand by them.
Like
I get it.
And like that's somebody's dream out there. Like they may have made a terrible tasting pretzel. Like not Susie, she's amazing. I love her pretzels. But like there's some bad stuff I've tasted, but like that's their baby. And like who am I to bash it because I don't personally like it? Whereas like
someone else
Joe Schmo over there it might be his favorite food.
Yeah.
And so like I don't talk crap about products because I would hate if somebody did that to us. Like, you may not like our smoothie because it's not sweet enough, but like, go get another smoothie. Like,
there's other places
like,
if you don't want to.
Somebody's gonna like it.
Yeah.
And
it seems to be a hit.
Yeah, and it seems to be a hit. And so that was the only thing where it's like, you never say things suck. And it was just like, I really respect how hard it is, especially in consumer packaged good, to take a concept and bring it to the masses. And so I would never want to bash somebody's company that way. Yeah. Just because I personally didn't enjoy it.
No, exactly. And that's such a beautiful moral to see. I hope that other people respect you the same as you respect them in that way.
So far, it's been great.
No, that's great. So, with your business and your business decisions that are made here and with your partner as well, are there core values that you had to establish within the first couple months to a year of your business being started? And what were they?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because as an employee to companies, I've always been like, what are our core values? And I wanted them spelled out like clearly. And so when we were making the business, as much as I wanted to articulate those things because inherently they exist, I have honestly sucked at doing that. Just because of time. It's like, oh, I don't have time to write an essay about respect. And it's like, okay, but like at the end of the day, I'm going to say respect and inclusivity and nurturing and like health and wellness and sustainability. And it's like, okay, but what does that mean?
And what does that mean to you?
Yes.
Because it's different to everyone.
I think the only good thing that we're at right now, and like as we grow and as the business evolves, I think those things will be more necessary to articulate and document and train on. But I think at this level, because there's only 8 of us that work here, we try to implement those things through how we interact, like how we lead as leaders.
Yeah.
So like
it comes naturally almost as a company and the employees that you have here.
Yeah, and like we're hiring people that were customers first, that understand the ethos of the business and like vibe with everything and understand that, oh, we're picking these things for a specific reason. And so yes and no, like they exist, but they aren't documented.
That's okay. They don't have to be documented.
Okay, and it's honestly, it's around, my key things are inclusivity, respect, and sustainability. And the sustainability is from like the social side of things, not just the environmental side of things. Like both are equally important. And I think it's so easy to greenwash things and just go, we recycle, we compost. Like, cool, we should be doing those. That's like 101. But like, how are we giving back to the community that we live in? How are we making our food accessible to this area? Like, are we full on excluding a massive group of human beings because of the way that we're presenting our message in this specific area? And that's the social side of sustainability that I think I am so passionate about, is because it is often overlooked because it's so much easier to talk about green things.
Yes. So would you say that within the hiring process that you do with your employees, I know you have 8 right now?
Yeah.
Within the hiring process of those employees, when you hired them, were you looking for those morals and values that you just said, maybe unconsciously?
Oh, for sure. For sure. And you can tell, like, hiring has been an interesting journey because I've never really had to do it. And I've never had to like full on manage people outside of like people that are 10 years into their career and know exactly what they're doing, and you don't have to train them. And it's just like, I trust you to do your and so that's been where I've learned the most as like a human being, is just like how to be a better people manager and how to support people that work here, and meet them where they're at,
and also understand their point of view so that you can talk to them in that kind of way so they understand it. You know what I mean?
Everybody's so different that it's like so-and-so likes to be talked to this way, but if I say it this way to this person, they won't like it. Maybe I'll screw something up and they'll hate me. And it's like, I'm such a people pleaser. It's hard to give feedback, and then when I do, it just like bursts because I'm like, I'm the worst. So working on it, therapy. Totally endorse it. But that's been our biggest struggle. Not struggle, but like my biggest struggle as a human being. And yeah, hiring with those values in mind was key. Because like we said before we even started this whole thing, you can teach somebody how to cut tomatoes. You can teach somebody how to make a smoothie. But like if they're morally deficient in certain things.
Yeah, or different to you.
Yes. Like you can't necessarily teach that.
Unless they're willing to learn.
Yes. And like I think at this level of where we're at, like as much as I want to educate everybody and their brother, like if you don't meet me at meet me somewhere, there's just, as a small business, it's just not worth, you can't afford to do that.
Like, no, I agree with you.
You need to have people that can come in here, do their job, be kind to human beings, and you're not there to educate how to be a basic human. Like I can teach you things. Like we've had a lot of people that will come in and they're in college and they're studying marketing, or they're studying creative design, or they're studying graphic design. And it's like, I can connect you to people that can, or I can teach you what I've learned over the years doing those things, and I'm happy to do that. But if it's like,
I have to repeat myself over and over and over.
Then it's like, okay, you're great. I love you. I hope you do great in life. But like,
it's time.
Thank you next. Yeah.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
So Dean, before we end this podcast, my last question to you is, for the aspiring entrepreneurs who want to start a business, what would your main 3 tips be for them?
Go to therapy and really figure out like, why do you want to do this? And do you have the support system in your life to do that? Because it is not only like a massive time commitment, but like it is stressful AF. And if you don't have that outlet, or you don't have the ability to communicate those things, you're going to hate the journey. 2, you can do a lot of things, but you can't do everything. And it's not worth trying to learn how to do everything, because you're going to eventually need to get, like I spent 6 hours looking at poop drains for toilets one year because I was trying to figure out how to get a kitchen license. And then I was like, JK, that was already a kitchen. We don't need to do that. So that's a waste of 6 hours, and I will never get those 6 hours back. So hire somebody to do that.
So hire an expert.
Yes, hire an expert. And then 3, be so passionate about what you're doing and stay connected, because I've worked for many small family-owned businesses where they get to a certain point and the owner disconnects, and there wasn't the foundation in place to say, this is why we exist, this is the goal that we're going towards. And it became very transactional. And I think there's enough transactional corporations. I think that's what chain restaurants, they serve a purpose, is they're very transactional. Like you're not going to McDonald's to hang out with the person at the counter. No. They're not encouraged to do that. And so if you figure out what differentiates you and make sure that you keep your pulse on that, would be kind of my summary of that.
Okay, well, that's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you being on this podcast, and it's been great hearing your story, and thank you for sharing about your business.
Thanks for having me. It was honored. I loved it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.